Hi.
Hello.
Lovely to see you.
So nice to see you. It's weird not being sat next to you on the sofa.
It is, yes. We definitely had a lot to catch up on. But where are you?
Well, I'm in Whitby in North Yorkshire. Where are you?
It's good we're just acting so normal, isn't it? I'm in Portugal.
Amazing.
Normal.
Yeah, absolutely. So also, by the way, welcome to Lantyn Labs, our podcast at Lantyn, AI purpose-driven consultancy, where we take you through the things that we're making, the things that we're thinking, and the things that we're really excited about in the space of AI. And what I think was always my favorite thing is we're always making stuff with the things that we find rather than just waffling on about them. And it's just my favorite thing. But anyway, now I'm waffling on. After you.
Never. No, it's a privilege to go down these AI rabbit holes with you. Thank you for joining us. I hope it's a lovely podcast for anyone who's interested in the intersection of AI and creativity. For anyone who thinks they can't build stuff, just to introduce ourselves a little bit, my name is Georgia Lewis Anderson. I'm not an engineer, but I've worked at the biggest tech companies in the world in AI since 2016. So when I started writing the personality of robots, I was a writer. It was very hard to explain what AI was, and it was before generative AI, so it was before AI started teaching itself. But because I sort of had this random side hustle, I just needed some money, let's be honest, and then I got obsessed with the relationships between humans and machines. I am actually an expert in AI now, and we have our company Lantyn, and we help other people use AI, and every week we build stuff ourselves. The world has changed so much. You can literally build things just with prompts now, and actually that's how this whole relationship started. I asked Omar for some help because he's a technical wizard, and here we are on our journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's I think maybe leaning more towards the wizard side rather than the technical side. When if you start saying ones and zeros to me, I'll be like, I don't know, but I do have a beard that looks more wizardy. But honestly, I think the sort of really exciting thing is I was trying to describe it to someone the other day, how the landscape of AI is. Also, by the way, I'm Omar. I am a creative director. I've worked in advertising for about 15 years. For the last few years, I worked at Meta. While at Meta, I really got into the artificial intelligence software and tools that were being made, and was lucky enough to try them before they hit the market, and that really piqued my interest. I also used to be a copywriter, so the first time I asked an AI to write me some end lines, and it didn't need to go outside and look at the sky or have a cigarette or kick a can up the road, I was like, I think it's better that I need to start understanding how this new technology is going to impact my world and how best to integrate it as a creative person. And for me, it's been a transformative technology far beyond what I could have possibly imagined. I'm really excited that every week when we're making stuff and the landscape changes around the technology constantly, how we navigate through that. And I think it's so important to share what we do with everyone.
And it is mad. It was like that when I worked at Meta too. It's we're working on something, and then the technology we're using, literally the capabilities change. So it is quite nuts, being down the rabbit hole constantly. We're just trying to work it out, really, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm doing a lecture this week at London College of Fashion, and I was trying to write this slide about what does it feel like to make films with a machine and with generative AI. And I was thinking about this analogy of trying to pin the tail on a donkey, and the donkey's moving, and actually it's probably dark. Actually, there's probably not even a donkey. Every single thing that you think within a couple of days may completely change. And I think when we first jumped on the call, we talked a lot about Google's I/O recently and just how much that's changed. And I think some of the things you were showing were just profound. So I'd love to hear what you thought of all the stuff that they were doing.
Yeah, well, when you mentioned being more of a wizard than a technical person, I thought of that podcast I sent you ages ago, The Emerald, that compared the AI evolution, revolution, whatever ocean you want to call it, to Fantasia, when Mickey Mouse, what is it? he spills a bit of something, and then he basically, essentially, I can't remember the exact analogy, but he starts sweeping and then he can't get the water back in, but he gets the genie out of the bottle and then he can't put it back in. And that sounds quite woo spiritual, but then I was watching an interview with Sergey Brin from this influencer girl. She's called Cat GPT. I'll link to it in the show notes. And it got really existential, and this is coming from the head of Google, and she asked, how would you compare like the AI revolution to the kind of internet like .com boom of yesteryear, whenever it was, 2000.
And, it sounds so bad that was yesteryear.
Lol, yeah, when was I mean, I was thinking it wasn't quite your, and he said you can't compare it because the internet was something like tangible you could get your head around, this network where people could all communicate with each other and you could send messages. Obviously it changed communication forever, but then like with AI, and like we were just talking about, nobody knows where it's going. And you were saying, what's the end game? And I was like, the whole point is these big technology companies, they don't have to have an end game of where the technology is going. They're just making it and seeing what happens. And that's what Sergey Brin was like kind of confirming. He was saying that we've never had technology teach itself on this level before, and we have never not known where it's going to go. Like it is kind of beyond comprehension. And then when I say what's the end game, just to reference that chat that we just had, you were talking about how Google just dropped VO3, which is the video generation software that you thought was only available in the States, and you're about to go to the States to do a project because you could only get it there, but now you can get it in the UK. And you were saying, how is it going to change the film industry? Like, what is the end game? And I was like, the mad thing is they're not thinking about the end game. They're just in a race to see how fast they can teach this technology and see how far they can push it. And then every step along the way, because they're so big, and this is what Sergey Brin said, the amount of computing power you need, the only people that can really compete in this space are the tech giants. Every point along the way when they're doing something mad in film, they're Google, they can invite like the top film heads to like see what it's saying, like that project you worked on before, and then suddenly everyone was gone. It's like they can just do something mad with a mad team and then suddenly everyone leaves. So I just spoke for a long time, but you get me.
No, honestly, I think it's so fascinating, and I think it is really interesting, like that whole point of like scale for a big tech company being a reason to exist, right? Like you don't need an end game. Like when you're a small startup, like I think one of the things that we were talking about, which so many things that have happened in AI have been like the death of 1,000 startups, right? Like this thing Google, one of the many things they introduced was virtual try-on, and super seamless, super easy. So many small startups have had hundreds of millions in seed funding like pushed into them, but now that technology is redundant. Like, maybe they might have like one or two might have some interesting IP that they might be able to like sell forward, but virtual try-on, once it's like integrated into Google products by Google, will render everybody else's technology useless. Like, something similar happened when ChatGPT came out, where, at that point, GPT 3.5, you could access on the API and you could play with the playground. But when it became a real product, that just did away with so many startups. I remember I used to have like an account with a company called Jasper, and Jasper had been valued at 100 million just weeks before that before ChatGPT came out. And suddenly I could be like, hey, ChatGPT, can you come up with some brainstorm? Can you like help me with all the stuff that Jasper was like really, built on top of their stack would do? But it changed. So now, these like new things that they bring out, and I'm like, that's why when I was talking about the end game, I'm like, what did they write at the end of their presentation? Okay, so now these machines do everything, and then what?
But they only need to get buy-in internally. Like that's what I was saying. Like they're not trying to get funding from someone and say the end game. The end game is like how many of the most incredible researchers can they get to like test out AI. And actually, the virtual try-on thing is mad. So just in case the listeners don't know, it's basically this product that like links up Google Shopping. So if you're looking for clothes on Google, then you can actually see what they look like on you. So it's quite mad. But as you were saying that, do you know that thing wearing that's just come out? I haven't had time to do it, but you can upload all the items in your closet and then you can like put your outfits together like Clueless style. So I wonder if you can combine it, because obviously the Google try-on thing is like to make you buy more clothes, but like how could you do it with the clothes that you have, like more circular economy kind of thing? Like maybe that's not what they want. And oh my God, there's so much stuff I pitched at Meta about Facebook Marketplace and AI, and it never really took off. But it's just interesting, like how can you use AI for a more green economy and like to be less capitalist? And then as I say it, I'm like, am I just giving this idea away? But ideas are 10 a penny, and you can take my recipe, but that's also it tastes the same anyway.
Exactly that, right? And I think there's something so interesting about that, because when you were saying that, it really made me think, like, you know, you're right, like moving forward from this moment, all the clothes that we'll buy that we've already tried on will be locked by the system. So then this idea of like, you know, a clueless wardrobe, right? That will happen forever, right? Yeah. But then I was like thinking, I wonder like how a company like Vinted would use something like this. Like, do they have an API? Like, surely they also have all the information of all the clothes that they have, because like, you know, when people buy their clothes, when the circular economy, would it not benefit from virtual try-on? And what does that look like?
Oh my God, it would benefit so much, because I'm terrible at taking photos of my clothes. I know they're good clothes, but then I can't sell them and I end up buying way more on Vinted. And I was thinking about like how sick the Vinted algorithm is. Google algorithm will be a bit like that. But yeah, how can you combine? It would be great to be able to do virtual try on of clothes. But also because sometimes I do that anyway, I'll search for the item that they've got and like find an old picture of it. So there must be something they could do with like the metadata and old pictures of like, you know, something that was on a website of yesterday or whatever. Maybe not yesterday.
Exactly. Maybe. Just in case like anyone from Vinted is listening and they're like, "There's a genius idea. We would be happy with, you know, you sponsoring the next episode. How about that? That would be great. We'd be happy with that." Or maybe like a shopping.
Yeah, that would be so good.
You know, I was just thinking maybe we could have like a supermarket sweep at Vinted. You know, you've got 2 hours to go and like shop everything you want.
Mm-hmm. Also, can we do virtual try on like live on the podcast and then do the videos? Do you know what I mean? Like we could do the adverts for that. Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be so good. Especially if we could just like keep changing outfits while we're talking.
Yeah, and you know what I was thinking? You know the thing that you did with my car when you put the flames on it, and I did it with the garden when I was thinking about redesigning the garden, and you just take a picture on ChatGPT, and then I uploaded like the parasol that I was looking at on eBay and said like, what would this like look like in the garden? Can't we, like Vinted also sell homeware and stuff? I feel like that's also a massive opportunity. Like to combine that, like what would this chair look like, or what would this vase look like in my room? It's kind of a no-brainer.
Honestly, I think there's like I think there's so much fun to be had there, and you know, like as we're sort of talking, we're starting to like build out these things that just really just makes me think about like some of the things that they were talking about, the Google thing, where they're like one of the things they showed was like literally someone had just a piece of paper, they drew out what they wanted to like make this website look like, and then just gave it to Gemini 2.5, and then it made it. And it just like wrote all the code and it worked. And that for me is like, you know, I know we love vibe coding here because vibe is the only way that I can code, thanks to Replit and all of the other things. But I think like there's something really interesting in like, you know, what happens when you start getting that unlock. But anyway, I digress. Like, you know, what happens when you can start drawing stuff and then making stuff? What happens when you put that in the hands of like other people?
It's so sick.
Yeah.
Also, for our social enterprise wing of the consultancy, which we're kind of in the very early stages of setting up, like, you know, we really believe that like we don't want AI to widen the have and the have-nots. And like if we're building these products and we're like well-educated, we're at all these tech companies, what are like young kids that haven't had the kind of chances that we have, what are they going to build with AI? Like this changes everything. Like imagine if our first workshop that we do is like people drawing stuff on a piece of paper and then we're like, hey, we can make it into an app right now.
Yeah. And honestly, you know, that's I don't want to like make that the segue, but I can't wait to tell you about some of the apps I've made this week, because honestly, like it's really been blowing my mind, like just what is possible to make. It's like every week I come back here and like, you know, normally it's on the sofa and I'm like trying not to gush too much because I'm like, oh, I can't believe like another like round of like absolutely thrilling things we can make them. And it's almost like, you know, I think you said something earlier, like, you know, about how ideas are like 10 a penny. And it is true, because in this time of like, you know, being able to think of like things and then go, well, actually I could just make that. You don't have to discount any ideas. So now I never go like, do you think anyone's going to want to use that? I'm like, do I want to use that? I actually do want to use that. So if I want to use that idea of building for one is fundamental for tech work anyway. So if I can build for myself, maybe someone else would want to use it. But anyway, I don't want to move on to that section yet. Please.
No, I'm into it, and if you think it's a good idea. It's kind of, yeah. I was having a conversation with a friend today at lunch about don't worry so much about what other people think.
Yeah.
Think about how you feel, and I feel like that applies, like so many spiritual and personal development lessons do, to AI too.
Yeah.
In this case,
Yeah. Absolutely. Honestly, so I'm like, I think I'm just thinking like, which one should can I tell you about calorie tracker first?
okay, yeah.
Right?
Hit
Okay.
me with your rhythm stick.
Yeah. Okay. So I've had lots of fun like making stuff this week. I want to tell you about calorie tracker because I was on a call with someone the other day and someone said something and it just like stuck in my head and it made me go, I think I was having a snack while I was on the call. So I was like scurrying in like Pringles underneath the screen and I was like, oh my God, I'm just saying, actually hold on a minute, how far would I have to walk off these Pringles? So while we were on the call, it wasn't my turn to speak, I asked Replit to like start helping me build this thing and there, you know, a couple of hours after this call finished, I had this like working web app that is called Calorie Tracker. You say what you're about to eat. You can scan a barcode. You can enter the barcode manually. You can also just sort of like say, I ate this, and it will work it out. But then it will tell you how far you have to like walk. Because I was like, that's probably the most important thing. So like I said, I've been by the seaside and I may have eaten fish and chips practically every evening. And then only realised that you have to walk about 30,000 steps to work off one portion of fish and chips with very nice tartar sauce. So it's been really interesting to suddenly go like, oh my God, this is wild. But like to be able to make it and to like reflect my own health back and like go, actually I do want to work out, like if I have this 12, like I have to like go and like run around the block 40 times or something. So there's something really fun about like taking what would be just it's like a calculator, but like making it a fun way to sort of like help build your health and help build your own sort of like reality around it. And I can't wait for you to play around with this. It's fun.
No, I love it because he sent it to me and I was like, sick. It takes the calorie tracker that I made to the next level because then it gives you the stuff that you can do. And then I guess you could customize it and be like, you could get its memory to remember like what your favorite like workouts are. Like for me, obviously I love dancing and swimming, but like for some, or Pilates, but for someone else they wouldn't. So then it would be like, oh my God. And then you could hook it up to ClassPass and be like, go to this class on like Wednesday morning with like this teacher, and really get it personalized. I have one thought.
Yep.
So in my calorie tracker that I made,
Yep.
I put my height, weight, and age.
Yep.
Because I didn't realise that we actually just burn calories anyway, but maybe you knew that already. So there is a certain number of calories that we burn before we have to start burning, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, like, I also, like, it was really fun because, you know, that idea of, like, adding smaller and, like, nicer, like, fun, like, ways of, like, you know, gamifying this experience was really fun because it was, like, oh, like, obviously saying, like, you know, 20,000 steps is quite an abstract number. So like it was saying like, okay, so you now have to like walk around Hyde Park 3 times, or you'd have to like walk from Oxford Street to Vauxhall 4 times or something, like actually sort of like giving you practical realities. And I was like, wow, I think you could probably like turn this into a massive game. Because then I thought to myself, yeah, hold on a minute. Like, I don't know if I told you the story right. I was telling someone this the other day, like during lockdown, I used to ride my bike a lot because I really needed to be outside, right? So I also didn't really like, I don't really like do normal cycling, so I would be like, I wanted to ride really far, and I started riding to Stansted Airport because I really like the Burger King there, but it was the only place I was allowed to have a Burger King because Burger King's really I'm really not a big fan of it, right? Like, I love Burger King, but I can only have it when I'm travelling. So I used to live in Hackney, and it would be like a 60-mile round trip, which in my head I was like, if I do that, then basically I've like burnt off the entire Burger King straight away. And then I was thinking about calorie tracker, and I was like, yo, could I like put in like, I want a McDonald's, but it'd be like, okay, or like, you know, want some fast food, and it'd be like, okay, if you want a Burger King, or sorry, if you want a Big Mac, you have to like go to this one in Ilford, and you have to walk there, mate. You have to like walk there, get it, and then by the time you get back, you would have like basically cancelled it out. So there's so much fun that we could start like having with food and workout that like I don't think people really have explored that much yet.
Yeah, no, I really like the personal aspect of it. It reminds me a bit of those Fitbit things. Like I read this essay. Oh, who's that essayist guy? Anyway, and he was talking about how he became obsessed with like trying to burn the calories. You know, like it is something you can kind of get obsessed by. But if there's a way you can make it fun, kind of like, you know, It's just another idea I'm going to give away, but you can.
Hey man,
do you remember that thing I was going to make where you compete with your friends to see who can have the least screen time? Like, for instance, if like we were always in competition to see who could have the least screen time, that's going to make me do it more. Do you know what I mean? So if you could have like everyone in your area, or like everyone on your street, or I don't know, or your mates or something, fun. Like a leaderboard vibe.
Yeah, honestly, I think that like it just made me think like how I stopped vaping, and that was literally because like it was an emoji on an app that someone had like told me about, and I was like, I got a streak for about a week, and then I failed, and I had to start again, and I was like, there's no way I'm gonna recollect all these emojis again. And honestly, after I think it was just like I got so hyper fixated on like the emoji part, the gamification part, that I never looked back. So I think you could easily do something like that. That'd be wild.
Yeah. Well, like when I did that job, I did a presenting internal job for Google about some new products they had, and I was interviewing a guy when I went to Dublin, and he was saying, well, obviously it's probably changed now in the age of vibe coding, but like the most hireable developers are people from gaming platforms, because every single app, from well-being to productivity to whatever, want to gamify their experiences.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because gamifying experiences brings me on to my other thing. But I'd really love to hear what you've been building, because I'm just gonna like keep talking otherwise.
Look at that lovely segue. No,
we're smashing the segues. I won't talk about this too long, right? But I was really thinking about my attachment style, right? Like, you know, I think like just as a little bit of a background to like what attachment style is, like, you know, in interpersonal relationships, how do you present when you're in a relationship with someone? Like, are you anxious? Are you avoidant? Are you mixture of both? Anyway, I was really starting to think about that, and I was like, okay, I really want to sort of like understand, like, you know, one, doing a test and like finding out who you are. Mate, I've been in therapy so long, I know who I am. Was interesting, but while I started talking to an AI about, like, you know, a thing that I was thinking about, it said something to me that like precipitated this idea, and it's like, you know, I was exhibiting sort of like thought patterns of like being an anxious, preoccupied person around something I was thinking about. But then it said something about like how I was also presenting a lot of like earned, secured attachment behavior, and I was like, earned? Tell me more about this. And like, yeah, okay, so like the more work you do on yourself, you can earn a fucking secure attachment style. And I was like, if you can earn it, maybe you can play a game to earn it. So then obviously I jumped straight into a machine. I was like, can we make a game that basically like one would work out your current attachment style, but then gamify you through like a series of questions, gamify your ability to sort of like have a secure attachment style. And honestly, like, I was thinking about all this, and I was like, okay, what sort of game would it be like? What game could you have that would make people go, like, okay, that's a fun game? And then I just basically ended up like thinking, what about the highway code? Like, if you can have a highway code for your attachment style, so you can have a theory test and be like, okay, so someone's just jumped out from behind a car. How do you present yourself in this relationship? So honestly, it was so much fun to do that. But like, it was really interesting. Like, you know, I think like obviously like gamifying something like that is, you know, it's not, I'm not trying to be flippant about it, but what I am like trying to sort of like showcase is like how you can use these machines not just to sort of like provide empathy, but like also to help you navigate things that can be really difficult, and really sort of like which one of your friends are you going to talk to about attachment styles? Not that many, honestly, especially if all your friends are like neurospicy as well, then we're all going to go off on tangents. So it was really fun to like make a robot about it. So I think that that's one of my favorite things this week, of like, how can we make something that like not only just sort of like it supports us emotionally, but helps us grow emotionally as well? And what would the world look like when we start making things like that? You know, anyway, waffle.
No, I absolutely love it. When you showed me it, because I've actually had to go on it last week, do you remember? And oh my God, I just thought it was such a great idea. I think the, you know, attachment styles have kind of made their way into sort of everyday conversations, haven't they? And I think it's really smart because it combines like the idea of like BuzzFeed, like everybody wants to find out what they are, but with actually doing something quite fun. And actually it's interesting because I did it. What did you get, by the way? What was your percentage, or like, do you not want to say?
Oh no! Like mine was like, but like mine was great. Like it was like I was showing loads of anxious, preoccupied behavior, and I was like, okay, cool, that's interesting. Like, you know, obviously I'm like thinking about things because I like thinking about things. But then when it started saying things like, you know, secured behavior, I was like, wow, like that is really the most important thing, because suddenly like it also like, because you can think about it, but I think the really important thing was like exactly like you said, like the BuzzFeed vibe about like it being reflected back at you. Because essentially what I was like doing was like trying to make a mirror for some internal part of my brain to go, what does this part of my brain look like to me? And then to like see that and go like, and the thing is, I think I remember saying to you like what I really wanted to do was to sort of like, after the version I showed you was like to build a version that was way more like Candy Crush. So like if you do something well, like you get explosions of good stuff. So like I'm like, how do I make this like quiz just absolutely dump dopamine in your brain so you feel really good about being good? And like then you could turn it to like, you know, you could do the same sort of thing in reverse as well, where like if it's negative, it's not as exciting. So like, you know, we could easily gamify things far beyond like what we reckon. But also like I was really consciously thinking about, it's like therapy for the TikTok generation. Like, is that what this is? Like,
yeah, I mean, why not? Also, it's not to dumb it down, but it's like, it's just that self-awareness. Obviously, I bang on all the time about like AI is such a powerful self-reflection tool. And actually, as you're talking, I'd really like to do it again because I did it and I got the answer. And I'm definitely going to link to it in the show notes. And actually, we never do this, but I'd really encourage, if you're listening or watching, to have a go and then just give us a shout on like socials about what you think. Because I did it once and it said, well, the last version said quite small, like you are whatever percent attached. I don't know. But then it said in massive letters, anxious avoidant. I was like, all right, I get it. But it would be interesting if like, okay, what's the study to do here to see if it works? Like, do I have to do it every day and then I get better? And then, you know, it's like, what is there some kind of controlled test that we can do here to get some data? Or do you only find out if you're getting better when you're in a relationship? Because some things you can't test out until you're sort of in it, right?
Yeah. And I guess like the thing is like you're also like when you're answering the questions, like they are literally like, I think the highway code is the best way of looking at it. Like it shows you like the edge cases of what could happen as well. So if this thing happened, how would you react? How would you feel if you didn't get a text back in the morning? How would you feel if like blah, blah, blah happened? You're like, oh, you answer honestly. And then you go, actually, hold on a minute. What would I actually like to do? And then you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like I can see myself doing that. And then, you know, I think the crazy thing is like that thought of like going, okay, we can make something that does something like this to like help encourage you. I then made a film where I was like, give myself a hug because I was like, man, I feel really burnt out. I would really like to give myself a hug. So like even that sort of like thing of like going, like, what could we do to like help you feel better? Like maybe we could like make videos like that. I don't know.
Do you know what? This is a segue because it brings me on to something that I've been working on, but I'm only going to say it because, is there a way you could test this out? Like get a little WhatsApp group of people to do it and share how they feel? Like, because it would be really good to have a bit of data from people. And it's kind of what I'm doing with The Artist Way. So my favorite ever personal development book is an OG book written by the ex-wife of Martin Scorsese. It's all about creatively unblocking. You know, you could argue that loads of people have kind of copied it since, or any book written about creativity is kind of uses the ideals. And it's really helped me like with the confidence to put myself out there. And I'm passionate about AI and personal development. So I was thinking, how can I test out some ideas for AI and personal development, but also give my friends a gift? Because the account is a 12-week course and I've never made it through on my own. Like you kind of need people to do it with. So I've been making some bots, which I'll tell you about in a sec. But just to finish that thought is, wouldn't it be great to test it out in a little group, like get a little WhatsApp group going of people that feel comfortable talking about their attachment styles and be like, hey, when I started I was this, but then I've used it every day for a couple of weeks and it's got better. I don't know, maybe our spiritual AI crew we could sort of unite that we're already sort of doing weird stuff with. I don't know.
Yeah. Honestly, I love this, but like we need to now hear like what's happening with the Artist Way, because you know as a working member I'm really excited to hear like your entire philosophy about this because I love it.
Yeah, okay, so it's early days, we've only done the first week, but I don't know if you tested it out, because I did put it in the WhatsApp group. Did you see, so in week 1, it's all about reframing. So you write down, two of the big tools in the Artist Way is you journal every morning for 3 pages, and you go on an artist date every week. You take yourself somewhere on your own, maybe it's a museum, watch a movie, whatever. And in week 1, it's all about reframing blurts, because you just start to do your journaling and you realise the way that you talk to yourself. And a lot of the time we talk to ourselves in a way that is so negative and in a way that we would never talk to a friend. And that's what really emerged out of so I've been doing it on Zoom, and then I had a little breakout room with some people. And one of the guys in there was saying to me, "Oh my God, you're talking to yourself so negatively." And then I said to him, "But what did you just say to yourself?" Like when you actually say out loud some of the things that you say to yourself, it's quite wild. So chapter 1 is all about reframing. They call them blurts. So you write something horrible about yourself and then you reframe. And a lot of the themes that were coming up was I don't have enough time to do stuff, or if I put myself out there, it's going to be terrible. So I was like, how can I use AI to reframe this? Obviously, it's so simple just to write in ChatGPT, I don't have enough time to do this, and then it reframes it and be like, yes, you do, but that's like sycophantic and like, frankly, unhelpful. So I don't know if you tested it out. It's got a terrible name, Affirmation Alley, don't ask. But I just made a really quick GPT, and it doesn't just reframe the blurts, it asks you questions to reframe them. So you say like a blurt about yourself, like I don't have enough time, and then it's like, why do you think that? And it just gently coaches you. And I've just been testing it out on the WhatsApp group, so I'll find out what everybody thinks tomorrow, won't I? Or if anybody's used it. But it's just quite nice to have a working group there. They're all up for doing the book, and because it's just a charity donation and I'm doing it for free, I can just give them stuff to test out so that I can get some feedback. And it reminded me, my friend here, I'm in Portugal, wants to start a business, and it reminded me of when I was at Google, and when we had ideas for stuff, we used to go and sit in like the lunch hall and then test it out on people. And if we had, it's kind of like a proof of concept, like in a startup, if like X% of people said it was a good idea, then we could take that back to like our boss and be like, cool, well this might work, this might not. So anyway, I've been talking for years.
No, honestly, I think it's like it's absolutely remarkable. And I think like what you said, like the lineage of the artist's way and all of the other people that have interpreted it in their own way, like to like watch you interpret it through your lens as an expert AI prompter, like a prompt engineer, like just an AI expert, to sort of like see like how you can do that and not magnify the experience, but like make the experience way more immersive, and like to make it more sort of like tangible. Because I think also like what's been really interesting is like like there's a book, and then there's a PDF, but then in my head I'm like, I also was like, that's still too much to take in, like how am I going to do it, like and then eventually got to like the Spotify book, and then I was able to listen to it, and I was able to sort of like take it in, and I'm like, oh okay, amazing, and I got it on Audible, etc. Like even that sort of stuff has like made the experience of doing it so interesting. And I think, but the AI part of what you're doing is probably the most fascinating, because suddenly you're like, and this is just like chapter 1. Like imagine when we finish the whole thing, and you've got like 12 different like AI bots, and they're all doing something. And I've got a feeling that probably by the time that happens, the next version of like the upgrade to OpenAI service is going to be that all those GPTs will be able to talk to each other. And that's going to be fascinating, like. So yeah. Anyway,
and like maybe one isn't like a viable product. Like basically, that was the thinking of it. If you spent years writing a personal development book, why wouldn't you want an AI accompaniment so people can personalize and contextualize it to themselves? I love the idea of talking to a book, and it just gave me a structured way to be able to test out these ideas. And I really do think by the end I might have some kind of personal development product that will be viable in some way. And it's just really fun to test it out, and it's really nice to do the artist way with a group of people and think about AI as a reflection tool. So
yeah, and honestly, like it was really fascinating, like hearing the first round of like people talking about their like their desire to connect with creativity, but the feeling of time not being on their side. And I was sat on the call, and I literally had to like stop myself from hitting the raise hand button and go like, wait until you start using AI to be creative. You're not even going to believe it. Like, it's fascinating like what you can make. And I'm so excited for like people to like start like, I understand like so much for people who spend time on machines making stuff. It needs to be tangible and something it needs to be something that we make, right? Like it might be a piece of clay, or like, some sort of like twig thing, I don't know, whatever, but like making something a machine might bring you back into that, but the active creativity is there. And I'm excited for like what your next GPTs are going to look like, because imagine just made me think, like as I was saying, like imagine you make a GPT that would basically break that first like hurdle of like, now let's make something creative, because GPT can now make incredible images. So maybe that's like, if you're still stuck on making stuff, maybe this thing can help you. What's the wackiest thing you can make?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Anyway,
there's so many basic ideas from like artist state generators to honestly like GPT, GP Shmi is really like I'm talking about like proper apps. Like, let's be real, I've been really busy and I just knocked that together like on the fly. I'm basically doing it for free for my friends. But like once I have a bit more time to actually seriously make some proper stuff, it's
yeah,
exciting when you think about AI reflecting and enhancing human creativity in a kind of controlled group test setting.
yeah. I love that. I love that. And it also made me think like, God, I wonder like, I know because I know you can like make bots for WhatsApp. Like, I wonder like what a bot in the chat would be like as well.
Oh my God, that's such a good idea. Yes, I really want to do that because, yeah, I need to work out how to do that with the API because I know they're quite cautious about that. But I've never done that before. Have you?
I've made one. The thing is that you need like a business, like a WhatsApp business account, but then you can use like a service like Twilio, which is like a really massive company that like, you know, not only sells numbers, but also does like chatbots like way before like, you know, AI sort of like turned up. You can easily make a
Yeah.
WhatsApp bot with Twilio. And also like, you know, maybe you could like then think about like what the next version of Artist Way is. Like, does it have to live on WhatsApp? Could it live on Telegram? Making Telegram bots is a lot easier. And they just announced that like they're now working with Grok as well. So now Grok is going to be baked into their entire platform. So you can make a Telegram group that also has an Artist Way companion in the chat. So I know, like there's a million things you can do, but like I think like
I love it.
yeah. I feel like this is my favorite part. Like when we're like, yeah, if you did that, what about if you did this? Oh, what about if you did this? That would be amazing.
Yeah. Oh no, I love. Yeah, no, Twilio I used to use back in the day, pre Gen AI for chatbot making. Yeah,
Yeah,
and so that's interesting. I didn't realize, and I love the idea of Telegram because then it's like fuck the system vibes, and it just keeps it separate because it means like you're not on WhatsApp, you're socializing, and then you're
yeah,
getting that stuff. But it's interesting that Grok has been integrated into the kind of anti-establishment messaging thing, and that does make me nervous. Like I had a conversation with a guy in Germany about how I would never have any of like Elon's robots in my house just for the data. So it's interesting. But maybe I don't really care if Grok has the artist way. So yeah.
yeah. And also like I think, you know, when one of my favorite things is like when you speak to Grok and then you ask Grok why it thinks a certain thing, and it's just like they told me to say that, and you're just like, Grok, you just cannot keep a secret, bro. You're not supposed to tell everyone. Like it happened loads where like suddenly it was like it started behaving in a very different political spectrum. You're like, why are you doing that? And it's like, oh, we had a rogue engineer. Who was that, Grok? And like, oh, then it said who it was. And you're like, oh, that's pretty weird. It may have been the person we all think it is. So I don't want to say that because otherwise I have to say allegedly. Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah. Well, side note, I was talking to my dad. I had a long drive yesterday, and I talked to my dad for a long time, and he told me that Elon Musk has been doing loads of ketamine.
Oh my God! Yes. Did you? So yesterday, basically, he got sacked. Yesterday, like he's like leaving do, and they like gave him like a little like a big fat key. So funny. But like, if you watch the video and then like I literally watched the hour-long video, and it's hilarious because you're like, I've been around a lot of my friends who have been trying to sort of hold it down, and then they can't after a little while. And they're like, and then you just watch it, and it's just the most hilarious thing. And also, you know, not to sort of like go too far down this rabbit hole, he also had a black eye, which I don't know, allegedly was like his kid who did it, but then you're like, allegedly, was it something else allegedly? It was just like, and you're like, I think, to be honest, I think he just like, he would have like walked into something just being off his chops on an incredible amount of ketamine. But yeah, like to the point where like, I was like, apparently in the news it was saying that he started having bladder problems. You're like, man, that's side trance levels of ketamine, bro. You need to not be doing
levels.
that.
That's like levels. Yeah.
Levels.
Yeah. I mean, we've all walked into a door before, though. So,
we've all walked into a door. Apparently, we've all walked into a door before. Yeah, and apparently all good. But yeah, vibes. Anyway.
I've got 2 more bots to tell you about.
Tell me about them, please. Yeah, no. I think like I have like one final thing to tell you about, but I want to hear more about bots, please.
Okay, I'll tell you one, you say one, and then I'll say. So, do you remember I told you I started making one of my therapists?
Yes.
But I hadn't asked her yet. And then I had a session with her and she's so up for it. So she sent me all of the books that she's written and I've made it on Replit and I'm astounded by the pace in which Replit has moved. And I'm going to send it to you after this. Sorry that I didn't send it before. And but I was also trying to give us a break because we've both been away. And it's so amazing, and it's so I've made two. I've literally got her as a bot. She's a sort of she specializes in Kundalini awakening. She's like really into like Tibetan sort of Buddhist stuff, and she's a really wonderful listener. And I was on the waiting list for a year for her. And every time I talk to her, she's like, I've written a book about this. I've written a book about this. So I was like, okay, how can I use AI to therapy is expensive and how can I get the most out of it? So I've made two. I've made one for general use case, which is just all of her books on Replit. And, Replit just design it so amazingly. So it looks like a professional app. It's a web app of her. I experimented putting her picture, but I decided not to. Anyway, that's really good. She's really on board and she might even share it with all of her clients. So that's lovely, just like a nice thing to give her. And then I've made another one just on GPT because I haven't actually worked out how to put the all the data into a Replit one. And to be honest, I don't really need a Replit one. But I have used the API of ChatGPT and I would still like to experiment with the other APIs, to be honest. Like we've said, we're all a bit obsessed with ChatGPT. Anyway, I digress. I made another one which has got all of her books in with my very careful prompting that I've experimented with and tested. And then I uploaded the transcripts of our own therapy sessions. So it's customized to me. So it uses the memory that of our sessions. So that's my private one. And I can't wait to share it and see what you think.
Oh my God, absolutely just floored again. How incredible. And I mean, obviously the one that most people can use, I love that because it feels like such a natural product and such a wonderful way to sort of amplify your therapist's work around Kundalini, which again, is so important. The more we're spending time with machines, it's more important that we understand the energies inside ourselves. So I think it's absolutely brilliant that you're doing that. I guess that the thing that really piques my interest about this is how do you feel about the one that you made that's basically based on your private one? How does that feel
I've been really wanting to talk to you about it because obviously we occasionally talk to machines about our feelings, and especially if we're going through problems or whatever. And we've spoken at length on this podcast about the sycophantic nature of machines just telling us what we want to hear. And I've made tough love bots to remedy that and blah, blah. But it's been so interesting looking at the ingrained personality of ChatGPT when we normally talk to it about a problem, even when we say point out the holes. And then when I give it all that data, 10 books worth of her stuff, the advice is so different and it's so ring fenced around her methodologies, which are occasionally quite out there, or all these she prescribes people meditation. So I've been meditating every day and sending people love. I am worried sometimes that this podcast goes down a real spiritual rabbit hole, but we are who we are.
We are who we are,
and so it's just really sue me, do you know what I mean?
Don't sue us.
Yeah, it's really sue us. No, please don't sue us. No, but remember when you were getting sued and I said if you're getting sued then it's a sign you're doing something bad.
That did not make me feel better, by the way. I was still walking down the street going, I'm gonna have to sell all of my Stone Island, bro. It's gonna go so wrong.
You were so pranked. Lol, but thank goodness nothing happened.
Where? I
mean, it's the word of AI.
It's the word of AI. This happens.
Yeah, it's really good. I do worry that it's not as good as her, but then in some ways I'm maybe it's better than her because it can actually look at the data properly. So yeah, I think, from experimenting with chatbots as back in the day when I was making them myself, conversation trees, they were really handy for CBT therapy because and now obviously a lot of people are using them in a much more generative way. So it's just been an interesting experiment. Basically. So yeah. Amazing.
Tell me about
your one.
Okay, my last one, which has been really interesting this week, has been I started making. So I was really thinking about this idea of how people in the 90s that grew up with jungle music, drum and bass, hardcore, they never had social media, right? So like what's been really fascinating is like when I look for music, I will go and like find YouTube videos of like someone, you know, from like 15 years ago would have like uploaded them like playing a vinyl on YouTube, whatever. But I started noticing that like people were like leaving each other like really amazing comments for like, oh, you know, I was in Bagley's in 92 and I did this, I was in such and such room, oh, you were in blah blah room, da, 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 da. So this like entire social media like presence is like people recounting their stories as happening on the YouTube videos. And I was like really thinking about that, and I was like, yo, I wonder if I would take these like comments and bring them to life using AI. Like there's a really interesting story, it's true, and I would love to see how AI can not recreate the past but almost create an artist's impression of it, so like bring these like feelings back to life. And yeah, so I did that. And you know, one of the things one of the comments was talking about this idea of like, well, Hackney used to be called Crackney because it had such a big drug problem. And what was really interesting, I grew up in Newham, which was just around the corner, but the creativity that came out of Hackney was so powerful that it changed the world. Like, you know, the radio station, the pirate radio stations that like were on top of those tower blocks changed everything. And I made a film about that, recounting these stories about like, actually it's like, I know it sounds really weird, especially when you say like it's basically like the wireless and how important that was, like growing up and like maybe getting a shout out, maybe hearing your name and like finding out about places like Pinner and Ruislip. And I was like saying that to someone the other day, I was like, I didn't think Ruislip was real. Like I'd never heard of it. Like no one I knew had ever been to Ruislip. What's a Ruislip, bro? Why would you call it that? Anyway, but to be able to sort of recreate that, and I did it, and I was like, it wasn't flippant. It was like very sort of like considered and thoughtful to sort of like make something like that. But then I shared it, and suddenly it connected with people on such an interesting level that some of the wonderful like messages that I've like received is like about people like being able to sort of like almost like visualize their memories a little bit better because of AI. So it becomes like, you know, when you were saying about like how AI is a mirror, it really made me think like actually what I'm doing is also holding up a mirror to people as well. And it's a really interesting reflection to go like, this is the past and this is us like watching it, and there's something really interesting about the power of nostalgia to like reconnect us to a part of our humanity. So I think like, even like, I know I was just like trying to like make it not sound like as spiritual as we always sort of make everything, but I'm like, yeah, maybe these films are actually like a spiritual sort of like action.
Yeah. No, I love it. Oh my God, I love how much it blew up. I love that it uses old rave culture. Sick. And I love that, you know, I think sometimes the community on YouTube is overlooked. So how lovely to be able to, that is the data that you're putting in to imagine these people's memories of like, you know, you don't know what people are doing now. And I'm sure we all have like rose tinted on and we can't remember that we were just like gurning in the corner or whatever. But those are really special times. Like raving's really important. And it was a time when people felt connected to things. And it's so nice that you've been able to give that to people and use like I saw how good the video looked, and it's just like, it's kind of not the power of the idea that you had, but also the technological capabilities that can actually inspire like a nostalgic or a strong feeling of emotion in people. And I love how all these old school like DJs and stuff have like reached out to you since.
Yeah. And you know, like I think one of the really amazing things was like, someone asked me like, why did it, like, you know, in the film, like a lot of the buildings are constantly moving, like things are constantly shifting. And I made a conscious decision to do that because I was like thinking about like, when I try to remember something, I don't remember things photographically. Things change in my memory. Like, you know, actually when you recall a memory, you are actually affecting it. So it's really interesting to lean into AI filmmaking in a way to like go, rather than like go, oh no, that's a mistake because that's not the way it's supposed to happen. Like to really push into that and go, it's actually closer to how my memory works. This is closer to my reality when I watch something like this and go, was the car over there? Did the man actually sort of like go through the wall? Like, I don't really remember. And also like, you know, like just the final thing on this, one of my favorites, which I didn't actually finish, was like, there was such a common and beautiful theme about people proposing in chill out rooms. And I remember two of my friends who did that as well. Like at the height of like there was a big wave of Mitsubishis in London, and a lot of people were like having a lot of really fun time with them. But like, God, people proposing in the like chill out room was one of my favourite things ever. And I was just thinking about like when he did that, and my jaw had other plans, and I remember just really struggling to say congratulations to him. Like, so even the sort of like journey of like, you know, making this film was not only sort of like trying to discover other people's stories, but like tracking back through my own memory, because I literally had completely forgotten about trying to say congratulations, with my jaw having a different idea. But like even in that was like beautiful.
Oh, I love it. It's kind of like how people get engaged at Glastonbury and stuff. Like it's a special place where you feel connected with your friends. I love. And it combines it with the music. Like music is such a powerful like I did this writing course once and it was like the whole prompt of our homework was to write a whole story inspired by the nostalgia that we feel from music. So it kind of combines those two things. Oh, I love it. I'm really excited and I'm really excited to see about where it's going to lead to too.
Yeah, me too, me too. I'm like, honestly, it also allowed me to sort of like shine a light on one particular person, like this man called Eastman, who was responsible for making sure that Cool FM stayed on the air. And I was like, I hope there's going to be a statue of this man one day, because he is responsible for so many people falling in love with jungle drum and bass music, and all of the careers of people that have like, you remember Skibbity Chat? That's basically because of Eastman, bro. You need to go and like, give him a kick, give him a fucking like high five for that. So like, honestly, even connecting with that sort of stuff has been amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, because there's no records of like those MCs that like, I had some friends that did that kind of stuff. And like, the kind of mid-level MCs that aren't like super big in the game, but they're working and that's how they make the money. And they're just on trains all the time. And they were really important to a lot of people. But pre-Spotify, YouTube and stuff, there's so many tunes that people can't even find and MCs that are totally forgotten. So it's kind of a chance to archive that bit of history.
Yeah. And, and it's really interesting, the word archive as well, because mine's like an artist's impression of what happened, and I'm like, is that really different from like shooting a scene for a documentary that wasn't actually from that time as well, So what is real and what isn't real? Like, is the story real or is the visual real?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's such a good point. But then I feel like if you have the story with like a voiceover or something, and then it's not that far from like people drawing in a courtroom, or like, I feel like when you have an interview with someone and they're blacked out, like, why wouldn't you? Do you know what I mean? Like, do the artist's impression, or like, haven't you watched documentaries when it's like actors acting it out? It's like just kind of the next gen, no?
Yeah. And it's really funny. Like final thing before I like wrap up is really interesting that you mentioned court drawings, because it literally was the other day in the Diddy trial that for the first time ever they've used AI to, rather than just have like a court like someone drawing in the court, they would take those drawings and then turn them into a moving scene. And they were like having like, because you can't use cameras but you can draw and animate, so people are now making AI films about what's happening in court. And I was like, and it's like, you see Diddy and like Diddy looks like he's great, he has like grey hair and stuff now, because obviously he's not able to like get good hair dye in prison. I'm sure he could.
Oh my God, no way.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of that, but interesting, because what's in terms of like the stuff that's spread online, like how are the courts ensuring that that's like the source of truth, is like the data getting put in is from the actual courtroom? Because I can see a world where there's like loads of like fake news there, where it's like, cool, some are created in the courtroom, but then what about other people just making stuff online and like flooding? Do you know what I mean?
That's it. And like that I'm excited to talk about the dead internet next time, because we've got so much more to talk about.
Yeah, the dead internet is fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're coming to the end. I just want to give you a quick update. It's almost done, not completely finished, but I mentioned last week that I wanted to make something to help me do my makeup better, and I have started making Georgia Lewis Anderson's makeup bot, or glam bot, if you will. Come on,
I love that name. It's superb.
Yeah, it's not quite finished yet, but it's quite handy. And I'm just doing MVP. So I just say, upload a picture of the makeup look that I want from like the internet or whatever, and then upload a picture of the stuff that I have, which isn't that much, and then it gives me kind of instructions. It's very buggy, but I made it on Replit and I'm getting there. So I think by next week I might be able to like share it publicly, but not everything takes a week to make, basically.
Exactly. And you know what, honestly, I cannot wait to see Glambot in real life. I think it's going to be incredible.
Yeah. Yay. All right then, well, another week done, I guess.
Another week done. And hopefully, are we going to be in the same country for the next one?
Yeah, I think